Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. Now, some of you may be brand purists, and I get that. It does make some sense to be, but there's something about these little nuggets that just make for a fun day at the shop. Like the buzz of going to a flea market and finding a steal cheap cordless tools on Amazon from brands you maybe seen once, often never, sometimes can't even pronounce, can be a sweet pickup when they are good to complete e-waste when they're bad. Today we make some common mistakes and some nice wins when purchasing a handful of these tools in order to make a full episode on 10 tips and tricks, a buyer's guide of sorts, to separate the good from the garbage on Amazon when it comes to these things, because unless you have dynos like we do to measure how worthy or worthless these cordless tools are, there's a lot of landmines out there. And today mostly with impact wrenches because we've tested a lot of those, but these tips apply often in general as well. And yes, Amazon, so far, these days at least. That's tip number one, and where we bought all of these, including this, in order of advertised torque, the Robust True FT550B, rated for 406 foot-pounds, that we bought for about 80 bucks. Well, actually, tip number one would be more like check your local sales and BOGOs at Home Depot and Lowe's and sites like Ohio Power Tool, Acme Tools, ToolNet, sites like those. I know these tools with batteries are often less than a bare Milwaukee or DeWalt tool, even Rigid and Cobalt. But do a double check first. Sometimes crazy sales and BOGOs can make that difference. Tip two is really, in our experience, if you're going full budget build though, it's usually Amazon. Yes, unless you already know what's going to be sent to you, like your buddy bought one from this same link and the same seller. As much as AliExpress, Temu, Wish, and eBay are enticing with their prices sometimes, you might be waiting 2 to 5 weeks for a complete knockoff tool, which we've gotten many times, or just reliably poor performance you can expect from those. Not to say that Amazon isn't aspiring to be the same more and more by the day, but as long as you're not buying name brand batteries and expecting that, the tools themselves are often the brand that they say they are. You'll have at least a month to ship it back if it's weak sauce and won't be waiting a month to be able to even do that for it to show up. It's like a Harbor Freight style short return window guarantee sort of warranty basically. The Robust True here is a little bit smaller than the rest of the impacts today, but all of these would fall into a mid-torque sort of category. It's smaller than the Milwaukee, which is already a short-looking mid-torque impact wrench. Let's see how it does in our first working torque test. 5 seconds and forward, median test of 3 on screen. $146 foot-pounds. Yikes. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to beat the $220 as bare Milwaukee, but that is bad. And hate to destroy some of the surprise for you, but we're all about learning tips today and not where and how to buy garbage like this. Yeah, in reverse, 10-second max torque test, this thing is also just as bad, heck, even worse considering 194 foot-pounds. Ugh. This is a learning opportunity for all of us though, and it brings us to tip number 3. Do not buy smaller looking impact wrenches or drills or most things like chainsaws too on Amazon. Well, in this case, unless you're just trying to prune some really small branches. Say for like 2 examples we know of, we'll link below if you definitely want a compact impact wrench. This specific CC and this latest Avid Power, which is not even that small, a tiny bit longer than the M18. You're always, like until a big shift in the market happens at some point, looking for something like DeWalt mid-torque sized or larger. They haven't figured out how to pack the beans in anything smaller in impact wrenches. So if you see something smaller, it's only for them to make less of a tool, like to target a lower price and provide you less stuff. We noticed the same thing in drills. Some are really good, and then some, usually on this end of the size, the small stuff, were all laughably bad, even when it comes to some brands you might recognize. Now this has its limits. Bigger isn't better. Firstly, all high torque sized impact wrenches on the website suck. I don't know how else to summarize it for you. If it's a 1/2 inch impact the size of a high torque you'd see in a store, it's almost certainly not good. I don't know why. None of them have been able to consistently pull it off. Now some mid-size impacts will call themselves high torques, but just sort of look at it in the hand. If they have pictures, it should be an obvious difference between the two types of categories. Now, speaking of size, and this will bring us to tip number 4, you also need to, in 2025 and beyond, let's be realistic, be buying brushless. That's tip number 4 in a nutshell. If the tool you're about to buy new is cordless and you're not trying to buy it for nostalgic reasons, it should be brushless. Brushed tools are less efficient, usually make less power overall, generally speaking, and are by nature bigger, so that's why I'm mentioning it here. For example, this older Avid Power is brushed and much larger for it, But their new one is smaller and brushless and somehow went up to the top of our Amazon rankings, so well, it's good too, and better than its brushed counterpart, which was already the best of the old school brushed holdovers from a bygone era. A hack to determining if it's brushed, because they will not mention that, is to Control F, find on the page the word brushless, because if it is brushless, they will 100% mention it every time, often even in the title. So if it doesn't have that, it's definitely brushed. Which brings us to our next tool, the Dongcheng DCP-B698. This was $70, so less, but comes with one battery, which I think usually I don't mind for an impact if it can get the price down, and this one's rated for 515 foot-pounds. And I can let you know how we decided to buy this one amongst the hundreds, maybe thousands of options now on the website. For tip number 5, ignore Amazon sales metrics and focus on other data sources. Number 1, best selling in a category means little. It can often mean the opposite, and it's just made the cheapest, so the most amount of people want to save $10 over the next option. I mean, just look at flashlights, for example. Instead, we suggest you do a couple things. Ignore star rating. Those can be tampered with, be full of Vine reviews where they got the tool for free and they just opened a box to look at it. And what you should navigate towards is the most recent reviews. The first page, read them all. What are people getting lately that actually bought the thing? And number 2, use third-party fake review spotters if you want. I'm often too lazy to do this if I'm honest, but it is good advice. Then the last thing I look at is the release date, or if it's not listed on the page, when the first reviews for the product were. All things being equal, a model that came out 3 months ago in Cordless is going to be better than one that came out 3 years ago among Amazon brands. We've only seen a gradual increase in quality and performance of these things over time, and looking at our rankings, simply buying the later model from each one of these brands has consistently been better within a size category. Remembering high torques and compacts mostly still all suck these days. So yes, that's how we came upon this guy. It came out within the last few months. It's brushless, large-ish, but not huge, especially in length, which is nice for fitting this around a vehicle. Let's see how it does. "354 foot-pounds, about matching the Milwaukee so far, miles ahead of the last guy despite being around the same price. Very nice. Up next, in advertised torque, we have the CS-CRI rated for 580 foot-pounds. We bought for around $90, and it comes with 2 batteries. This meets all of our criteria. So far, it's brushless, came out somewhat recently, but long enough to have a decent amount of verified reviews. It's clearly mid-torque size and also advertising those torque levels in that it's not saying 1,000 plus foot-pounds that you'd see from a high torque impact specs. But also not thin, narrow, and small, so we can expect something from it. It has room for the current level of technology out there to make what it says it does. The tip we have for you here, and this is tip number 6, many cordless tools these days will share a battery platform. That battery platform is usually Makita LXT, they're 18 volt, and these brands won't be advertising that. This has the benefit of being able to mix and match other brands of tools sometimes, or even use the legit, much longer lasting, more robust name brand battery packs in our experience that typically make more sauce to boot. A method that works 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, is looking for the front release lever up here, and then for this 60-ish degree looking angle coming off the front. That usually means Makita 18 volt type, 18, 20, 21 volt. They're all the same thing. There's no difference other than how they're marketing it. In fact, when it comes to these tools, we've sent 8 of these no-name Amazon Impact wrenches to viewers who mention they use them for work now for long-term feedback going back 2 years at this point. And a couple brands have broken. We'll never link those in the description, but the most common failure is the battery pack first, either not working or cracking open 6 months to a year in. So having options is a bonus on the cheapest ones that do that sort of thing. This is how this CS-CRI did in our working torque test. $308, quite good, and this would go on to do even better, which is what we figured it would, because it's a split image of who's currently ranked second on our charts, the CC Gen 2. This CS-CRI going to make very similar, a little less in forward and a little more in reverse because, well, it's the same tool, same length, same weight, and even advertised torque here, which isn't always the case. And this would be our tip number 7. If the tools look exactly the same but are a different color, like the vent holes are the same size, location, same battery shape, same everything. They pretty much always are in that case. For Amazon brands, I'm not talking Milwaukee and Rigid or Craftsman and DeWalt, although that's happening more often too. This was the case with the Gen 1 CC mid-torque here becoming available later from Kukmo. This Gen 2 CC now has a CS CRI selling it for oftentimes 15 to 20 bucks cheaper, here on the ranking both being adjusted per usual to a comparable across the board one battery kit type price. It's going to be listed up here as they make about the same either way as a second option. Sorry CC, if you don't want this happening, maybe make your own designs for yourself. Okay, and on to our last contestant today, ProMix. This was a full $125 for this 2-battery kit, the most expensive on the day, but is rated for 900 foot-pounds, which is a lot and more than double than some of these. It also takes Makita-type battery packs as an alternative. In fact, only the Dongcheng of this bunch was the one that wouldn't fit them. This would appear to check all the boxes for us. Let's see how it does. Yeah, 189 foot-pounds is not going to do it. 900 foot-pounds, this has a long way to go in the next testing series to try and make it there. It had better really love reverse to make that happen. We're going to hop right into best case scenario testing, where the robust true is on the struggle bus this one. The Milwaukee here is going to make it up to 451. Well, it makes it between that and 480 depending on the drive size, so keep that in mind. The M18 prefers 3/8 on this tool, so we'll throw that in on the chart towards the end here. The robust true, not so much. 230 foot-pounds, which is far from its target, not even to mention the DeWalt mid-torque, which these days gets up to 630. This figure here means any form of Milwaukee's 12 or 18 volt compact impact wrenches could beat this thing. It's just not worth it. And here's the Dongcheng Makita mid-torque looking impact wrench. $442, that's quite good, about closing in on that Milwaukee sort of arena. The ProMix, that one has some proving to do. Let's see it. $342, that's not terrible, all said, but also below average and well off from what they're selling. And that's going to be here tip number 8. Higher prices in the case of this one and higher torque claims in case of this one again, both mean pretty much bupkis, not even a little bit. Now, price-wise, the absolute lowest price stuff is, yeah, that's usually bad, like $35, $45 power tools, but paying $145 is no guarantee from what we found. Even when paying prices that match name brands we all know is good quality, no guarantee that it's any good at all. And advertised torque, yeah, even an LXT Makita battery, which is a nice little lever you can pull when you want some more sauce from these things. Looking at the increases from the ProMix and the Robust True here, those included batteries are leaving a lot on the table. The Robust True's 230 is going to be bumped up to a full 273, which percentage-wise is pretty massive, and 342 becomes 374 for this one. Nowhere near where it's being advertised torque-wise still. Well, let's take a look at all of that here. These all get points first based on all the dyno runs we did with them here. The CS CRI was moved up top with the CC here since they're the same tool. First, looking at length as a function of performance and that length, that's 39.7, 61.6, and 50.8. So even accounting for its smaller size, this one is it's just bad. That's why we say nothing in the 5 to 6 inch range, usually even up to 6.5 or so, is worth much on the site from what we can find. When you look at what they advertised versus what they delivered, what we saw was as much as 40%, as much as 86%, and as much as 38% of their torque figures that they're telling you. 38% is an overall channel record lowest ever. It's always exciting when we can break records on an episode. Then for value, we're looking at performance versus price, 49.3 points, 94.7, and 44.6. This demonstrates how price and advertised torque can both be misleading, all wrapped up in one tool. And this Dongcheng also, lowest price on the day, second lowest torque rating, and yet We have another record broken on this leaderboard, 94.7 points for value, but we had an inkling this tool might do well. Heck, we had an inkling about most of these tools we bought today, but honestly had no idea how each would do on the dyno. We just bought these and had a hunch. And that's why we turned this video into 10 tips to share with you. And this is tip number 9. Some no-name brands are sort of brands. Well, more than others at least, even if they aren't known in the US or outside of Amazon. Dongcheng is a name we've bought before in cordless screwdrivers. It did very well here. So that's one lesson. A brand you or a friend may have bought and had some success with. Look at some more of their stuff, which is why we kept buying CC Tools to this date. There's a higher chance that their other stuff could come out as not garbage. Case in point, the CC Ratchet we bought recently, beating some pretty big names here along the way. No affiliation with any of these brands, that's just our experience. Dongcheng, though, goes deeper. They have a knack for naming, and they are the outfit behind DCK, if you do some digging, an Amazon drill brand we've also shown to be crazy good for the price. In fact, Dongcheng is the more well-known name, and it's sold into many Southeast Asian countries like their go-to hardware store brand, like how we see a Milwaukee or DeWalt in the States. So that's why their battery doesn't work on other tools. It's sort of their own, but we also find it's a quite decent one, better than your standard included stuff. So being geeks, we had a hunch this new impact they came out with would not suck, and well, it doesn't. We're looking at points totals of 187, yikes, 365.3, and 217.4, placing Dongcheng in first overall due to performance, not being overly large, and yeah, lots of value, which is sort of the purpose of this whole ranking. More to tip number 9, some of these guys, I'll call them semi-brands, are like real companies, not just a sticker on the tool. You can go to CC Tools website and see a 3-year warranty on tools, including purchase from Amazon. And Dongcheng, maybe it's an unfortunate name, but I think it's something they're using knowingly and a matter that they're probably firm on. They got a 3-year warranty on tools themselves, not the batteries though, but even becomes a 5-year warranty if you register the tool with them. Does this overall beat Snap-on, Milwaukee, heck, even Cobalt? Probably not, but the point is that these indicate that the brand might be like a semi-actual brand, and less likely to be landfill fodder. Heck, I can't even visit the Protemex website, for example, without my webpage aborting from Sketch Factor. And finally, tip number 10 is to use YouTube, the people's platform, but don't just stick to one channel, especially ours. There's loads of really good channels out there nowadays. They often find things we don't, or will dive into things that we don't because we're so enamored with numbers here, and they'll also surely cover tools that we never will. Copy paste the brand into YouTube and give a small creator a whirl. They might be worth a follow to find some cool diamonds in the rough like this one, just like we sometimes do. Let someone else spend the money to make these poor purchasing mistakes, and hopefully these terrible tools will eventually just go away and that cream will rise to the top. You can find us at the top of your feed every Friday. Thanks for watching.